The General Industries Union of South Africa says it is disheartened by the findings of the Pietermaritzburg Justice and Dignity Group regarding the impact the high cost of living has had on the working class and the poor people during the month of March 2024. According to the latest FinScope Consumers South Africa 2023, 40% of consumers are using credit for household necessities, while 2 out of 5 individuals have gone without electricity in the past 12 months due to the lack of affordability. Now, let's discuss this. We're now joined by Mametlwe, Sebei, General Industries Union of South Africa. Thank you so much for your time. Let's see if we can get this right now. So this report, of course, coming out at a time where South Africans are experiencing high cost of living. Just your reaction based on its findings.
Absolutely. This situation is disastrous for the working class and for the poor. This report does indicate that the price of a household food basket has increased by 6.3% on a month-to-month basis. But of course, it's not just only the food basket. It is also the increase in the cost of many other household utilities and necessities, which are estimated. If you, for instance, take account of a personal or rather a household and personal hygiene products that are essential for hygiene, for health of people, they are estimated to increase by over 8%. And you add on to this the cost of energy, the cost of transport, and the cost of many other administered prices as well, including fuels. You then have a complete disaster of the rising cost of living in the context of falling earnings and incomes of the working class.
And I mean, what is also concerning about this report is that we are now seeing more and more people using credit to buy basic foodstuffs, and I mean, these numbers are staggering. You talk of 6.3%, but when you put it in rands, it actually gives you a picture of how much we are talking about here, which is, concerning for people, particularly as transport costs are high, as well as salaries not being increased in the workplace.
Yes, I mean, the food basket now is estimated to cost about 5,277 rand. Now, this in a country where you have 10.3 million people that are unemployed, many of whom are dependent on grants, and you look at the increases in grants. The 2 basic grants, for instance, a child support grant has increased by 20 rand. The SRD grant for the unemployment has also increased by 20 rand. Now, this clearly does not compensate for the increases in prices. But obviously, it is also true of many workers whose wages are actually falling. Now, it's a complete disaster. I mean, the report itself points out that the child grant support, right, actually is 46% below the cost of providing a nutritious diet. That is a reason that children are experiencing a standard growth, they're experiencing malnutrition, and the poverty has reached horrendous levels for many working class and poor people.
Now, you have listed as the union, several key points here in which a government can step in and provide alternatives. Just talk to us very briefly about the most prudent, steps that needs to be taken urgently by government.
I mean, firstly, the question of food has to also do with the crisis of the land reform in this country. We do think that land reform can democratize not only access to food, but also food production, avail more land for people to produce their own food. But there's also a need for a government regulation by means of price controls on basic food and other basic necessities, which they are already doing in terms of energy, in terms of pharmaceutical products. We are saying that must be extended to food. But I think ultimately, what we do need is to nationalize and to bring under public ownership and democratic control of the working class. Big monopolies in the retail and other sectors that are essential for a supply of affordable, cheap and accessible food for the people in need, for people who are starving and people that are hungry in this country.
Now, of course, we saw, earlier on, President Cyril Ramaphosa, launching and commemorating the 20 years, of the expanded public works program. Whilst this is lauded, there are concerns that it is almost like a short-termism approach in as far as creating these job opportunities, but really not absorbing particularly the youth into the job space in those environments that they are employed in the first place.
One thing that struck me about the visual that have been shown on, on TV about that program is people affording, doing a skilled mechanical work as an example of EPWP. Now, anybody who knows what EPWP has come to signify is people that are poorly paid, that are poorly trained, that are not even given any methodical education and training, who spend most of the time under trees, in the streets without a clear assignment, in addition to the fact that they are not really benefiting meaningfully in a way that abolishes poverty. And even the fact that they talk about millions of job opportunities instead of jobs signify how disastrous and a complete failure this program has been. The program has enormous potential, we agree, if you then utilize it to build the essential infrastructure that we need, the roads, the clinics, the schools, the hospitals, and to ensure that you also link it with reindustrialization of the economy on the basis of areas where South Africa has enormous potential. Everybody in the world today talk about transition to clean renewable energy. South Africa has 85% of the reserve of platinum group metals, which is a raw material in the production of clean hydrogen fuel, as well as enormous resources for renewable energy, on the basis of which you can unleash a green reindustrialization and a green revolution in this country and lead across the world, creating millions of jobs we need to put to useful employment many young people who are without jobs, who are not in education and not in any form of meaningful livelihood, that I think will be able to absorb their energy and willingness to contribute to the development of their own communities and society.
Now, of course, you talk of government and its interventions. You also are calling on corporate to do its part. Now, on the one hand, we spoke about how people are still being given, more credit to spend, even though they are over indebted. You're calling on corporates, particularly saying that, corporate is also monopolized. Just speak to us about the role and the responsibility that corporate South Africa also needs to take in this part.
I mean, the over-concentration of wealth and ownership of the economy is evident to everybody, but this is also attested by the report compiled last year, I think, by Competition Commission. There were two reports actually. One indicated 178 sectors in the economy are over-concentrated in their ownership, they are monopolized. But also, the other report on the prices of essential goods show that monopoly and, of course, profiteering in those sectors is linked with price increases that are not even within the framework of capitalism justified by what we call a reasonable rate of returns. So monopoly is responsible for the crisis, of course, of the cost of living that impact the working class. And you just have to look at some of these key industries. Look at ShopRite. I think Checkers, for instance, their CEO earned 100 million last year. 100 million rand being paid to one individual in a company whose tellers, the Checkers tellers, are earning appalling wages at the same time as we've seen an astronomical increases in the prices of basic goods and foods that have been sold by Checkers. That is the reality, and that is the reason we think this monopolization, which of course is a logic of private ownership, even on the basis of competitive economy, is a logical outcome of it. And we do believe the only solution and alternative in this situation is for monopolies to be on the basis of public ownership and democratic control of the working class, because on that basis, we can have industry from agriculture to food production, supply and distribution being done on the basis of social need to provide affordable and accessible food and nutritious diet for everybody in this country.
Mr. Sebei, thank you so much for your time on the show. Of course, that is the General Industries Union of South Africa's Mametlwe Sebei.